let's also address what's really going on with the metals industry right now. And let's also welcome on board the management of JSPL. We will get to him in just a second from now. We'll just do that. The reason that we thought that we'll call in the management is that there has been infrastructure capex takeoff. Finally, there's been improved spending that one has seen on domestic infrastructure, and also it's going to give a big boost to railway infrastructure. So the company in focus right now, Jindal Steel, and let's welcome on board Naushad Ansari, the CEO at the steel business for JSPL. Mr. Ansari, morning. Thanks so much for joining in. Now, domestic steel production, which is very closely linked to GDP growth, infrastructure, as well as construction spending. Given that India's GDP is already pegged to grow at about at least 7% over FY19 to 20, what is it that you're expecting it to translate into for the steel industry in particular?
So if you look at the last few years, you would find that the steel demand is actually lagging a little bit compared to the GDP growth. So I'd imagine that with 7+% GDP growth, I think that the steel demand would certainly go up by about 6 to 6.5%. If you also look at a little historically as to what was happening in China at a few years back, you would find that there the steel demand was actually going up substantially more than the GDP growth. We are hoping that as the infrastructure and the construction demand increases, and also overall we see that the the economic situation improves, we do believe that there would be a time when the steel demand can actually outperform the GDP growth.
Having said that, there's so much happening in the steel sector. Do you think that on the pricing front as well, things have taken off and pricing power is returning?
So if you really look at what was happening for the last few months and quarters, you could see that the pricing continued to go up, price continued to go up. Of course, there was also a cost push, and there is still a cost push which is there because of the electrode and refractory and all the other things which are there. But of late, you also see that the coking coal prices have started coming down, the iron ore prices have also come down. So I'd imagine that more than the price, what is important is that the margins would continue to be in the same range. In fact, I expect that the margins may actually grow up even though the cost comes down and the price comes down. So overall, I think the steel plant should be able to do better than what they have been doing in the past.
Right, and if that indeed is the case, because so I'm just scanning through what some of the commodity prices have done in terms of their pricing trends, right? LME aluminum is up 5%. You have copper, which has gained some traction. Zinc, nickel, seeing some pickup as well. What, according to you, is the reason for steel demand lagging GDP growth in India? And do you think that with prices improving, that there would be a meaningful impact on demand? Because unless that demand pitches in, you're not going to really see the overall GDP numbers picking up.
So you're absolutely right. I mean, if you really look at how steel is going to play out, to my mind, majority of the inputs are going to come from the construction and infrastructure area. In the earlier years, you would see that the focus on infrastructure development and as well as the construction was not as much as what it is today. And therefore, the possibility that the steel demand will improve in relation to GDP growth is much more now. And if you see, for example, all the infrastructure projects which are happening, whether it is in road area or railway area or the entire infrastructure, for example, I mean, you know that almost 40 odd lakh crores have been projected for the next 5 years expenditure in infrastructure, and that's a big number, and that big number can actually translate in a very substantial demand increase for steel. So earlier, since the focus was a little less compared to what it is, the GDP, the steel demand was historically less than GDP growth. But going forward, we do hope that the situation will improve much more.
So considering the infrastructure capex in the country is slowly taking off, do you think triggers for the same are also programmed for roads, infrastructure, construction, and there is an emergence of new infrastructure sector as well? Have you seen a substantial pickup in the government orders?
Indeed it is, especially in terms of railways. You have seen there is a substantial increase in the orders. Also in terms of road infrastructure development, there is substantial increase. So in these two areas, there is already, you can see the visible changes which are happening. The number of orders for metro rails are certainly going up. For the road construction also, a lot of orders are being placed. So that's how the demand for the rebars as well as all the other long products, including the rails, are going up. We are also very hopeful that the Indian Railway will soon finalize the orders for the new rail, which they have to buy in addition to what they are buying from Steel Authority. So certainly we see that there is a lot of pickup in demand, and we are very hopeful that going forward with the kind of money which these organizations now have, we expect that these orders will further accelerate.
Right. So what is your government infra order book currently at, and how do you see it increasing? About 75% of your products are long products. Do you believe that that gives you an edge versus other steel manufacturers when it comes to catering to, the pickup in demand back home on Indian shores?
Certainly, that's the big advantage which we have is that our basket is almost complete. Other than the hot rolled coil, so to speak, obviously we have some coils in terms of through the plate mill, but other than that, we have the entire complete baskets. So be it rebar, be it wire rod, be it structural, be it rails, we are in a very good situation to kind of capitalize on this entire infrastructure growth. And you're absolutely right that 75%, in fact, out of about 10.6 million ton capacity which we have, only about 2.2 is flat and rest is all long. So therefore, the benefit which we can derive out of this is quite substantial, and we are very hopeful that given our track record of meeting our commitments and also the quality of the product which we have, we should be in a very good situation.
We understand that you're the only private manufacturer for rails in India. You have a setup of about 0.75 million ton plant, which is dedicated to the same as well. What percentage of your volumes do come in from rail orders? If you could help us understand that.
Sure. So this mill which we talked about, this can produce rail, and this also produces heavy structures. So the current situation, if you see, majority of it, obviously, a substantial percentage is also heavy structure, and also the rest of it is the rails which are being supplied to metro rails. So because we are the ones who have the capacity to supply to metro rails also. So far, the large order which we are expecting to come out of Indian Railway, we are still expecting. So if you look at the percentage out of, let us say, about 50 odd thousand which we make out currently, close to about 60-65% would be a structure, and rest would be rail.
Have you seen any progress with respect to the much awaited railway orders? We understand SAIL has had difficulty in supplying rails, and you have bid for rail supply too, but there hasn't been much progress on that front. Is that especially a domain where you're looking at expanding your order book?
So, when you say there is not much is visible, that may be correct, but what we know very well that, along with us, all the other, foreign bidders had also quoted for these rails, and I think the railways are in the process of really verifying the credentials of all those foreign bidders. As far as we are concerned, it has already been approved by RDSO, the team had visited, everything is fine. So as per the railway process, they will make sure that all the bidders have been fully analyzed, technically, and then they will come to a decision as to what is to be awarded to Indian company. We are of course very hopeful that once this process is complete, which hopefully should be completed in another month or so, we should really be looking for a large order coming from Indian Railways.
Mr. Ansari, pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time out and chatting with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.